Hello, welcome to my review of WWE SummerSlam 2022. I know it's, probably about a day late, but better late than never. Let's get on with the show. The show kicked off with a very good match, very, very enjoyable match. Bianca Belair defeating Becky Lynch to retain the Raw Women's Championship. Now, I didn't do predictions for this one, but I feel like Bianca retaining the title here feels like a logical step. I feel like this is the finale of the redemption arc with the from SummerSlam last year with Becky Lynch returning. It just feels right. Unless they're going to super long-term storytelling, like have Becky beat Bianca at several SummerSlams, and that's just her bogey show kind of thing, which, when the WWE do real long-term stuff like that. I know, we've got a new head of creative, it's very exciting, by the way, but, yeah, it's still maybe a bit much to ask this soon. But yeah, so Bianca Belair retained. I feel like that was the predictable and correct decision. And speaking of correct decisions that maybe weren't predictable, Bayley came back, which was super exciting. Maybe a touch predictable. It was about time. But Bayley comes out at the end of the match and then stands in the entranceway. And then, talking of unpredictable, Dakota Kai's music hits. The last we've heard about Dakota Kai, she was released. I hadn't heard any rumours that she'd been re-signed. I think it was Corey Graves on commentary alluded to that fact with she's not even under contract, is she? And then Io Shirai came out to form a trio with Bayley and Dakota Kai. Io Shirai has been renamed to Io with a Y in the middle for some reason, Sky, which I'm not super fond of, especially when you consider, I'm pretty sure Dakota Kai, oh no, I think that might be a WWE name actually, but I don't know, I thought we were past that now. I was about to say Dakota Kai hasn't been renamed, but I think she was. I don't think that was her name on the indies. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Let me know what her indie name was. But yeah, it's one hell of a team they've just debuted here. They came to the ring to confront Bianca Belair. They all get in. And then Becky Lynch, who's already shook hands with Bianca and hugged her after the match and then left, comes back in and squares up to the newly debuted trio. And cementing what appears to have been a face turn. I was sort of waiting for Becky to blindside Bianca throughout that whole stare down, but eventually Bayley, Dakota, and Io backed down, and they still had the 3-on-2 advantage over two women who just had a hellacious match with each other. I don't know. I'm not sure that was the most impactful way they could have dealt with that confrontation, but I am very excited for the trio. I'm not going to be too critical because they should be a lot of fun, and it really, really freshens up the women's division over on Raw, as that's where I assume they're going to be since they confronted Bianca Belair, the Raw Women's Champion. But yeah, really good match, really good choices for a debut. Pretty good debut, could have been a touch better, but no big complaints from me. Up next, Logan Paul defeated The Miz in a match where some people was claiming to be a little bit surprised by how well Logan Paul did. That surprises me based on how well he did at WrestleMania in the tag match. I will say there's a lot more pressure on a singles match, and early on, not everything was super fluid, which it's his second match on TV. I'm sure he's been having practice matches and stuff, but still, it's a different kettle of fish when you're out there in front of 40,000 people or whatever they said it was, and however many watching at home. So it's a different kettle of fish. I know Logan Paul's no stranger to big audiences, but he's still doing something he's not that familiar with in front of that audience. And I think his performance was fine. Probably better than fine. It was pretty damn good, to be honest. I'm not a Logan Paul fan by any stretch of the imagination, by the way, but gotta call what I see, and he did great. Miz is Miz. Miz is so consistent and so good, but in such an underrated style that he never gets much credit. He wrestles a simple style. It's not too flash and chaotic, but it's damn, he's damn good at it. There was a real fun spot where Logan Paul launched himself off the top rope to put Miz through the announce table. That was a lot of fun. he threw the turnbuckle pad at Maurice when she was trying to stop him doing it. That was also a fun little detail. I did not think Logan Paul would work as a babyface, but so far, it's looking like he might actually. Would I have predicted Logan Paul to win here? Honestly, yeah, probably. Like, Miz is that guy who can just lose and lose and lose and lose to celebrities and whatever. And it just doesn't affect him. So I feel like, you know, that it makes sense for them to team them up at WrestleMania with an intention of potentially signing Logan Paul and doing this feud down the line and leading to Paul beating Miz. Like, I just feel like that whole thing makes a bit of sense, especially with it being the Miz. So, yeah, that's probably, again, quite a predictable decision that I would expect a lot of people making predictions would have got right. So, fair play to WWE. Up next, Bobby Lashley defeated Theory by submission to retain the United States Championship. This was a very short match. Theory tried to walk out on it at one point. It's this whole thing about like booking a Money in the Bank holder to not be doing that great. So the successful cash-in is such a surprise. The only problem is you do it every year, and therefore it's not really a surprise when it works because they always do this. I remember they set the precedent. Didn't Edge lose the Intercontinental title or lose a match for the Intercontinental title on the same show that he cashed in on? With his first Money in the Bank win. So they set the precedent early, and it's become almost a bit of a trope at this point. So yeah, Lashley beating Theory was very predictable here. Unless they really wanted to drag out the cash-in thing and have Theory be holding the US title, threatening the world title the whole time. But yeah, no, I think Lashley winning was predictable here, and the fact that it took place in less than 5 minutes, they didn't bother keeping us in suspense. Speaking of the time of the match, by the way, apparently, rumour has it, the Logan Paul Miz match went long, which is why a match later on the card was really short. So that's an interesting note, which could be just an inexperience factor, as much as Miz was definitely leading that match. If Logan Paul was taking a little bit too long to get in position for spots, Miz can't exactly do anything about that, you know, so could just be an inexperience factor there. Up next, the Mysterios versus the Judgment Day in a no disqualification tag team match where everyone obeyed the rules about tagging in and out, which is just ridiculous. Why? Why not just make it a tornado tag match? It's just stupid. Standing on the apron and watching when you can't be disqualified for coming into the match and interfering is just stupid. Like Rhea Ripley standing at ringside when she's shown she's willing to get involved and can handle herself against the likes of Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. Why is she just standing at ringside watching? Like, it's just so dumb. Anyway, the finish of this match, the Mysterios won because Edge returned, which I think a lot of people saw coming, the Edge return. I think a lot of people were possibly predicting the Judgment Day win and then maybe Edge returning afterwards. I think I probably would have leaned that way as well if I was making predictions. I'm not going to claim I saw this coming. But yeah, Edge looks super cool. His new hair and new jacket and t-shirt and look, and wearing the vampire-esque sunglasses, you know, throwback to slightly brewed Edge, but still also modern Edge. Like, very nice, very good look. And yeah, he came in, took out Judgment Day, Mysterios picked up the win. GG's all round. This match was fine. It just irritates me. They've done it in ladder matches. They've done it in ladder matches. I don't know about ladder matches. They've done it in cage matches. I know that for sure. I think they've even done it in tables matches. If the match is no DQ, like just don't have tags. It makes no sense. You can't do tag versions of no DQ on the game except if you do a normal tag match and then actively turn off disqualifications. But if you do Extreme Rules or Steel Cage or Hell in a Cell or Table or Ladder or TLC, they're all tornado by default because of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? Anyway, rant over. That match was fine. It was good. Like, no complaints. But like the whole show, I have no complaints about. Spoilers for the review, but it wasn't one of the highlights. Put it that way. The opening and closing match were probably the highlights, and then there's one other contender for that as well. It's not this match that's up next, although this match that's up next was fine. Again, Pat McAfee defeated Happy Corbin. Pat McAfee never surprises when he does well. Like from his debut match in NXT against Adam Cole, we know what Pat McAfee's capable of now, and he always knocks it out of the park. Considering he only wrestles like a couple of matches he's only wrestled like 3 matches on TV. I don't know what he's been doing behind the scenes, but like, yeah, he's just an incredible natural athlete. Yeah, just fun match, you know. Pat McAfee winning again. Like I said about the Miz with Logan Paul, Happy Corbin is one of those that it just doesn't seem to matter how much he loses. He just retains his heat and still manages to be a significant part of programming. You know, he just loses to everyone at the end of the day. I'm surprised he's still happy. But yeah, Pat McAfee picking up the good win with the impressive performance as always. Just a fine match. Now, this is the other match that I would say was a contender for highlight of the show, but probably not. But it was still very, very good. It was just overshadowed by something else that we yet to get to. The Usos retained the unified, undisputed, I think is the word they're actually using, WWE Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits, with Jeff Jarrett as the special guest referee, which factored into it a little bit, but mostly Jarrett was kind of irrelevant. I think he did fight back against an Uso at one point or something. I can't remember exactly what the spot was. But this match was as is expected from the Usos and the Street Profits. I was going to be expected, but it was as expected from them. Like, the 2 great tag teams put on a great match. Yeah, no complaints. The finish. So it's been weighing on my mind that a friend that I spoke to about this after the event said that the finish felt a bit off. And I was trying to like think about what. I think it's just there were fewer like really close false finishes than there are in an average Usos Street Profits tag match these days. Which I think is fine. Maybe there was something a little. Maybe a few of the minutes that Logan Paul and Miz ate up maybe got taken off this one as well as the next match. But yeah, overall, I had no issue until someone pointed it out to me, and it started to sort of my brain started like my cogs started turning on what it could have been, what could have been up. It seemed fine. Like, it seemed as a planned finish. It was just, like I say, there was less of the usual shenanigans leading up to the actual finish, and that was fine. It was a good match. It was a very good match. Probably wasn't quite as good as their previous encounter at Money in the Bank, but still really, really good. Next, the match that allegedly got cut quite a bit of time off it because of the Miz and Logan Paul. Liv Morgan retained the Ronda Rousey. Yes, retained the Ronda Rousey in a singles match against the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's correct. No, she retained the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey by pinfall. But a bit of controversy here, or controversy, but I think I prefer controversy. In that Liv tapped at 2.5, and they replayed it many, many times. This is obviously a planned double finish to keep the feud going, I guess. Right, I'm gonna have this is my little downer bit of the show. First of all, the length of the match, and even if it did get some time cut, isn't my problem with it, because Ronda Rousey to me is a bit of a Goldberg. You know, short, impactful matches are what she's best at. Rather than long, drawn-out affairs. At the end of the day, she's Ronda Rousey. She should be going balls to the wall and either getting a quick win or getting caught out and losing quickly most of the time. Now, my issue here is with Liv Morgan and her booking. Not with Liv Morgan, the person. Gianna Perat. No, that's the one in Impact. Gianna, whatever her name is. She seems like a lovely person from everything I've seen. Nothing against her. Liv Morgan, the character, nothing against her. She's very over with the fans. She's got herself over. She probably deserves this push. The problem is the booking. She's not been booked as an underdog. Rey Mysterio as World Heavyweight Champion was an underdog, but he stood up to everyone and he fought and he felt like he could beat them, even though he was the underdog. And he did beat a lot of them until he lost the title. You know, there was... excuse me. There was no doubting that even though he was an underdog, Rey Mysterio was in it with a chance to win it. Liv Morgan has not... Liv Morgan has not been presented as such. Liv Morgan has been presented as almost afraid of Ronda Rousey. And it comes back to this trope of, like, WWE booking mixed martial artists really strongly. And it's like... Are you just outright saying wrestling's fake and MMA is real? Is that now canon within wrestling that it's fake? So they're all scared of the real fighter? Because, you know, that's kind of how it comes across. Because why else is she scared of Ronda Rousey? Ronda Rousey is less experienced than Liv Morgan as a wrestler. She's beat her once for the title, even though it was a Money in the Bank cash-in. You know, it's one of those where it's like, why? Why is she so scared of her? And why did she get no offense in hardly in the match? And why did it feel like such a fluke, even to the point where she actually, by the letter of the law, lost the match, but the referee's decision's final and he saw the pin? Like, why go to all these lengths to make Liv Morgan look weak when you've made her your champion? And she's clearly very popular with the fans. Like, I just don't like it. I just think you can do the underdog story better than this. Like, it's just, I don't know. Anywho, after the match, Ronda Rousey snapped, beat up Liv Morgan some more, beat up the referee. Yeah, I assume that was a full heel turn, although potentially in WWE that could also be seen as just a face being a cool, destructive face, like a Braun Strowman-esque babyface from his big run with Roman Reigns. But yeah, I think that was intended as a heel turn. And I think that's a good thing. I think Ronda Rousey is much better off as a heel. Much more believable as a heel. So we'll see how that develops, but there's definitely going to be a rematch between those two. I feel like Ronda Rousey could get the title back, but I hope Liv Morgan is at least better represented in the feud and the next match than she has been. Like, that's my hope. It's just they make her seem like she's at least got a chance. I don't know. Anywho, I mean, she did show some tenacity. She broke out of a couple of arm bars, like got to rope breaks a couple of times when I was like, wow, they've really just taken it back off Liv. You know, because like it was right in the middle of the ring and it's Ronda Rousey with her arm bar, which is very protected. So I was like, oh, wow, that was A, quick match, and B, a very quick reign. And I always had a feeling there was a chance Ronda Rousey would win this one. Because of how Liv Morgan's presented and how Ronda Rousey's presented, but I wasn't 100% convinced. But when she locked in the armbar, I was like, oh yeah, no, they're going with us. But anyway, let's move on to the main event, because that is what I believe most people are probably talking. Well, the trio debut after the opener and the main event are what most people are talking about, in my opinion. Roman Reigns retained the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, the Uwu Championship, because the initials are Uwu, over Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match that apparently lasted exactly 23 minutes. Not 1 second over, according to Wikipedia, the most reliable source of information in the world. This match was wild and so different to normal Lesnar-Reigns matches, and in such a good way. Like, people were talking pretty incessantly about how sick of Reigns-Lesnar they are. And honestly, they didn't really get Reigns-Lesnar here. Like, yes, those two were involved, but it was not a classic match between those two. They went for a different type of match. The whole shenanigans started with Brock Lesnar bringing a tractor down to the ring during his entrance. And then diving off it onto Reigns in the ring. Then Lesnar just thoroughly dominated Reigns for a bit. Like, quite a while. Reigns obviously eventually fights back into it. They're fighting in the crowd. Over on the sort of far side of the ring from hard cam to the left. Again, hard camera left. Fighting in the crowd over there. And it turns out that was for good reason. They were giving those fans their money's worth before Brock Lesnar, with his tractor, lifted up a corner of the ring and sent Roman Reigns tumbling out of the ring in one of the craziest stunts WWE have done in a match. Like, definitely. You know, I can only think of the rings collapsing when I think Lesnar superplexed Big Show and then maybe Mark Henry superplexed Big Show. I think it was both Big Show taking the superplexes on the ring collapses. They're the only, like, huge stunts I can think of that WWE have done with the ring like that. People have torn apart rings and stuff, but one big moment like that is rare to just wreck a ring. But yeah, so Lesnar lifted up the corner. So the people who they'd been brawling there before couldn't see anything. Like, but they put the screen on. I noticed they had put the big screen on, and I've not seen a lot of people who were there complaining about it. So it's all good, and it was a spectacle. It was a moment, wasn't it? You know. So yeah. Anyway, the Usos eventually show up. Lesnar takes them out. Theory shows up and starts beating down Roman Reigns once Reigns has started fighting back into it. But then Lesnar F5'd him onto the briefcase, and Theory, good job he wasn't in the last man standing match, because he was down for about 3 days. Like, it was ridiculous. He was just down for the rest of the match, basically. Paul Heyman got F5 through the announce table, which was great fun. Reigns eventually picked up the win by basically him and the Usos literally burying Brock Lesnar under rubble. There was the vast majority of the broken announce table got put on him. There was a desk chair, like, you know, like not a steel chair, like a folding chair, like an actual proper like computer chair. I can't remember what else they piled on it, just anything they could find, really. And then Roman Reigns even stood on top of that pile to as the referee counted 10. So yeah, Lesnar beaten by intelligence in the end by Roman Reigns. Really fun match. Probably my favourite of theirs. In fact, definitely my favourite of theirs. Probably my favourite last man standing match. At least in WWE. I'd have to rewatch some that I've thoroughly enjoyed in the past, because I do like Last Man Standing, even though there's some criticism of it for being a bit slow with all the 10 counts. I do enjoy a Last Man Standing match because they usually pull out some mad stops. The Gargano Ciampa one is one I'd have to revisit to see if I preferred it. Also, the last woman standing between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair was, from what I remember, a hell of a match. But this was just like crazy, like so fun. Like, really good fun. This is what WWE is all about. You know, like, people criticise, oh, it's not wrestling, it's sports entertainment. That was damn entertaining. Like, you know, and that's sort of the point, isn't it? So, yeah. I think all in all, I would have predicted more than 50% correctly. I realised I stopped thinking what my predictions would have been. I probably would have got about 50 to 60% correct, I would think, of these matches. At a push, maybe 6 out of the 8 for 75%, but I doubt it. 5 is probably believable, 4 or 5. So, yeah, if you did predictions and you have any sort of proof you did predictions, you know, instead of just going, I got all 8 right, do let me know in the comments down below. Congratulations if you did well. Let me know what you thought of the show as well. Overall, I thought this was one of the stronger WWE shows this year, and one of the strongest in a long time. Like, the Liv Morgan Ronda Rousey match was a bit underwhelming because of booking. Lashley in theory was really short, but still reasonably entertaining for what they did with it. Everything else was solid. Like, the Mysterios and Judgment Day was probably one of the weaker matches on the card, but just everything was at least solid, and some of it was really good. The opener and the main event were really, really good. Like, very, very good matches. And the Usos and Street Profits was just... I don't think the Usos can have a bad tag match in the year of our Lord 2022, honestly. Like, it's just... They're just on fire. And let's face it, they weren't carrying the Street Profits. The Street Profits more than held their own share of the weight in that match. You know, did their fair share of the work. But yeah, I just think overall really good show. If you disagree with me on anything, any specific analyses of matches I did, or my overall analysis that it was a good show, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new here. Share with your friends if you think they'd like to hear what I have to say, or they've got some differing opinions that they might want to argue with me about in the comment section. Like, feel free, let them know. Or if they're the only one in your friends group that's saying it was a good show, let them know. Hey, someone agrees with you here. I don't know. Share it, no matter what your excuse is. Pretty please. It's very helpful. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Ebeza, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.